This is a continuation of part 2 for the week 23 chat, or you can just consider this talking about tips and tricks for the DBQs, or points on the DBQ scale for APUS. This is, remember, it's out of 7, and so one of the points is contextualization. Contextualization is the connection to the broader topic or the bigger picture within the era of the prompt that you're given. And one way to think about it is to think about what other topics did we talk about in class during that unit. Or you can also think about the themes, and there are 7 themes for APUS. You can see them written there. I use the acronym MEGAPIC to remember them. But given the example of the 1920s DBQ, the general question, evaluate the extent to which the period 1919 to 1929 was a period of social transformation. That topic, social transformation, most similarly goes with the theme of culture and society. So I'm going to cross that one out because that's the general topic. But I then can use the themes to help think about other things going on during this time period. So migration is not only accounting for immigration to the United States, but also migration or movement within the United States. So you could talk about urbanization of moving from rural areas to larger cities for jobs. You could also talk about the Great Migration, the movement of African Americans out of the South to northern industrial cities. That will start during World War I, but continue all the way up through this entire time period. Economy is the work exchange technology, so what's the market, what products are being created. Economy is a little bit close to this question, the example of the 1920s that I gave you. But you definitely could talk about unions, you could talk about working conditions during the 1920s maybe. Geography and environment, nothing really comes to mind in connection to the 1920s, but geography and environment would be, what is the interaction between the land and the people during this time period? Or how does the environment shape and connect to American history? American in the world is basically foreign policy. What's the United States' role in world events? Definitely during the 1920s, you could talk about how we returned to isolationism, that we don't join the League of Nations, and we reject the Treaty of Versailles. Excellent, good topic to connect that to. Politics and power is all about the political history, so anything that's, thinking about specific laws that's being passed, or you've got presidents. You could talk about Harding and the Teapot Dome scandal, or just in general the Republican government they controlled for the 1920s. And then identity, what does it mean to be American during this time period? Or what different ethnic groups within America, what are some, and then how do they shape American culture during this time period? So I just use this as a way to help create more flexible thinking and point me in the direction towards contextualization. Now, how do you actually go about achieving that point? Well, contextualization, you can't just mention something. That's what AP readers call a passing reference. You can't just say, oh yeah, during this time period, the Industrial Revolution is still going on. Well, that's a passing reference. You kind of need to go through this sequence. State the broader topic, okay, Industrial Revolution or Great Migration, and then provide historical evidence. Define what that movement was. Give me some specific evidence, like a specific law or a person or a statistic, anything that could explain it. And then the last part is you got to connect that broader topic that you mentioned. Demonstrate how it's connected, or how does it fit within this picture of the prompt that you're asked to write about. A 3-step process. Thesis, Tips and tricks, make sure that you address the full prompt. Be especially careful if the prompt is more than one sentence. Make sure that and check that you've addressed all the key phrases from the prompt after you've written your thesis and you've got clear categories. Document usage. So you need to use 6 out of 7 of the documents and use them to support the argument. Some of the best essays that I've seen and read follow this pattern, where they identify what the document is or what they're referring to, according to the Butler Law, in document 7 or in his televised address, Reagan spoke of blah, blah, blah. Then you want to summarize the document, give them the main idea from the document. Extend to HIP if you have a relevant HIP extension. And then connect back to the argument. Teddy Roosevelt's speech demonstrates da-da-da-da-da, for example. When you extend to HIP for historical context, it needs to be immediately relevant to the document. For the 1920s, you can't say historical context. Oh yeah, there was lots of change coming around during this time period. That's too broad. It needs to be more specific. Try and think as closely to that document as possible. Intended audience needs to be a specific group. The American public is too vague. It's too broad of an audience. Try and be more specific. Irish Americans, that's more specific. And you need to explain why that intended audience actually matters. Purpose. When students most often think they're extending to HIP because they're stating the purpose of the document. But you have to be careful that you're not just summarizing what's in the document, but really, what is the author's purpose? What are they trying to achieve with this document? And that's where I think really having an action verb helps you. Are they trying to warn a group of people? Are they trying to inspire or discredit or reflect? So action verbs can really help you with that. Point of view, how does the author's background impact the importance of the document or impact how they wrote it or why they feel that way? Some options: race, gender, age, ethnicity, job, education level, etc. The last 2 points on the DBQ is outside specific factual information. That's got to be historically accurate. It cannot be stated or mentioned in the documents. It's got to be something that you think up off the top of your head. But it has to be correct. It's not something from the old AP World style prompts where you make up a document that you would like to have evidence for. This needs to be something that actually existed. So if you look at the 1920s DBQ, you could talk about the Emergency Quota Act of 1924 that talked about limiting immigrants to the United States. That would be outside specific factual information. But you also need to explain it and still support it to your thesis. The last point is synthesis, and synthesis and contextualization are very similar. But contextualization is the broader picture within the time period. Synthesis, the best way to get the point is a comparison outside the time period of the prompt. So that's why I use the phrase similar in kind, a similar comparison, different in time. It's a different time period in American history. State the comparison, provide specific evidence as possible for both eras, and then explain the connection. This can be, you can be as specific as giving, if a document points you to a comparison to a previous time period, you can use synthesis to kind of link to a document, or you can also do it at the end of your conclusion paragraph and connect it back to the whole topic of the prompt, if that works for you as well. All right, guys, I hope this helped. Please let me know if you have any questions, and have a good day.